مش قوية. Welcome back, dear viewers. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching the Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. Now it's time for our topic of discussion. And as we noted earlier, we're going to be dedicating this episode to the second phase of the parliamentary elections, a very important step, the third and final step in the political roadmap put forth by the Egyptian president post June 30th revolution. And today is the second and final day of voting, and the voting takes place in 13 provinces across 13 provinces across the country. And to discuss this major event Egypt is witnessing, we're most delighted to be joined by our prominent guests. First of all, Mrs. Huda Rizan, she's a former member of parliament, and Mr. Amir Nabil, he's the managing editor of MENA, Middle East News Agency. Thank you so much for joining us on the Breakfast Show.
Thank you very much.
We start with Dr. Huda. Dr. Huda, how do you see the second phase of the parliamentary elections? Yesterday we have witnessed the first day of the second phase. Do you believe that there was more participation, people were more aware about the candidates in their constituencies? How do you read the scene?
Well, as we discussed before, I expected that the second phase will be much better, and we
have said that here
before. Yes, it was in your program here, and it was like that the candidates were clever enough to catch up the defects which were taking place on the first phase. So they were starting talking to the people about their programs, and they contact people in their areas. I mean, so this is one of the areas that a lot of people they were shaking, and they don't know who's the candidate. Are we gonna choose the right one or not? So this is one of the areas which was a big reason that there is an increase in the number of the participation. Also abroad, there are tripling the number of the Egyptian abroad. I think I heard that from other areas. The other issue that a lot of the people here found out that they won't take place later if they don't participate.
Yes.
I mean that they have to pick somebody to give an account on him and start judging him on his acts and on his says. When he said, I'm going to do so and so for this area, they should give him the chance and then follow him by questioning him, what about what he have been promising the people around. I think also a big part of this election gonna be with the young generation, because the party which is
without mentioning names today, because of course we are in the silent phase.
There is a tendency towards this young participation. There are a big number which is taking, actively participating, and they were saying that. So I expect today, I think the number will be triple the number as yesterday.
And you are expecting today also the number to increase than yesterday, not only from the first phase?
Yes, this is what I mean.
But by midday, or because today the Prime Minister did give a half day for the state employees in order to give them the chance, but the private sector is working, so do you expect people to go after working hours?
I think so. They have to be obliged to do that, because there is no reason why not to participate. Except if they don't understand the seriousness of this stage in our political life. We have to fulfill this term and fulfill the request of the parliamentarian election, because this is the last step on our roadmap.
Indeed.
And this is the one reason that we have to fight for it, because everything is handled after this stage.
Yes, indeed.
Our commitment, either economically or a lot of international agencies waiting to set the parliament and start dealing with our international agreements, because there is a hell of difference if you are talking to the government with full constituency fee and other are defecting, or there is a parliamentary problem there. But so I think we will fulfill this item, and Egyptians are sincere to their country and their land. And we have to follow our president, of course, because they're a very sincere person, actually.
Mr. Amir, let me give you the floor. As a close observer, can you tell us more about the representation? Were there equal representation, or a segment of the society was absent from these elections?
I think this is something like a big difference between the first phase and the second one. First of all, the youth is trying, many of them are trying to be participating in this second phase. And another point is the young women and girls trying to tell that they are there and they are presenting. And I think some reports coming on the different channels, I have a glimpse about them this morning. I think some or a lot of them were trying to participate from young girls and young women. They were presenting in the first phase from the old women in the queues in front of the constituencies and so on. Another one is, I think there's something like songs coming in some channels to tell the people to participate and go on and come to the constituencies and cast their ballots and so on. I think the songs were not the first impact on the people, on the public, but some people are listening to media programs, or some of them are reading on the newspapers, or maybe some family members have some impact on their decision to participate. This one, I think the media organization worldwide are observing what's happening on, and they have a look that Egypt government are very insisting to complete this phase. We can see and look at how many people from the armed forces and from the police are participating. More than 160,000 people from the army and from the police are trying to protect this phase to have success. And a lot of, or many thousands of the justice system and so on. So I think there's a lot of preparations for this phase to have success. But I think the result we'll find out at the end of this day, the result about how percentage will be. The first one was about less than 26 or 27% of the people. I think maybe will be slightly more or so on, because of these differences between the two different phases.
And we are now joined over live from El Mansoura, the Ahliya Governorate, by our correspondent there, Nermeen Abdurrahman, to shed light about the developments in the polling station now, since they have started to work since 9 p.m. Nermeen.
Hello, Mahessia. A very good morning to you and to Karim.
Nermeen, can you update us about the voting process now, since the polling station have started to work and the people are expected to come to cast their ballots today, Nermeen?
Mahessi, Dakhla is one of the most populous places or governorates in Egypt. We do have here 3,952,000 voters, eligible voters. Yesterday, as you know, it was the first day of our third step of the roadmap. The turnout, I would say, it was medium. And the most important phenomena here, it was, as usual, the elderly people and women. And it's not only in Mansoura itself, the capital of Dakhla. This was also the same in the countryside, in villages outside Mansoura, as we had a tour there and we found that women are that much keen to practice their political rights, with full awareness that the coming parliament is going to be a parliament enjoying massive powers according to the constitution ratified last March. Mahisi, if you are asking me about the situation here in Al-Daqqaliyya, tight security procedures are taken. Many of the high-ranking officials are all the time touring the polling stations, whether from the Ministry of Education or from the Governorate of Al-Daqqaliyya. Topping the list, the Governor of Al-Daqqaliyya, Mr. Hussein Imam, or General Asim Hamza, the head of the Security Directorate of Al-Daqqaliyya. Also, we knew yesterday that 7 of the police officers of Al-Daqqaliyya moved to Kafr el-Sheikh, another governorate in the Delta, as they do have relatives who are among the candidates who are running in this electoral race. So to guarantee transparency, to guarantee that it's that fair elections, those 7 officers moved to Kafr Sheikh to practice their work or to secure the voting process there far from Daqqaliyya itself. Mahisti?
Nermeen, thank you very much for your feedback, and we'll get back to you throughout the day to know more about the voting process in El Daqqaliyya. Thank you very much, Nermeen.
Mrs. Rizana, back to you. Also, if you can tell us about the aspirations of the Egyptian people from the upcoming parliament. Are they optimistic? What's your comments?
Well, to tell you the truth, there is some groups are a little bit silent. They wait.
Refrained from...
I mean, they are gonna wait to see, wait and see. And some are very optimistic. Include me from the optimistic part. Why? Because we are sharing this country. We are looking for candidates with, among the groups we can see from this, there are a lot of educated personnel, a lot of people
high
coming,
caliber.
yes, high calibers. And you expect some of maybe different views, but they're going to be enriching the discussion on the parliament. The cue is that in the parliament you have to see who gonna make the right question on the right time to the government, and who's gonna give good results in watching and observing the act of the government itself. And also a group who gonna be regulating the international deals and discussing bets and falls there. So I expect much better result, and maybe these people who are skeptical a little bit by the sessions of the parliament, they gonna be persuaded. We don't have angels there, but we have some people right and some who are not perfectly acting, but I think it will be more or less pluses than 70%, I think.
Mr. Amir, how do you see the participation in the different governorates? We have seen an high level of participation in certain governorates like El Minufiyya, like Cairo. So how do you read the high turnout in some governorates than other governorates?
If we can compare between the two blocks, main blocks of the two phases in this election, I think there's a very big block in the first phase about upper Egyptian governorates. We can speak about families, and we can speak about
the names
tribes and very famous names there.
Of course,
And despite of all of that, the successful people were from individuals in the upper Egyptian. It was something like surprising results about them. Because some people were talking about, it was a very confirmed result before the election that there's some particular families were booking their constituency for their names and so on. But I think this second phase, will be some, again, surprising results about individuals, again, not for the families. In the very big block in the Delta governorates, like the Daqqaliyya and Munufiyya and Qalyubiyya, we can speak about big families, but small impact about the constituencies and about the people and how they look at the new, on the modern candidate and modern member of the parliament, and how they can express and how they can say something in the parliament. Some were saying about the people from villages, or the people from the labor or so on, before can speak about the Arab Spring revolutions and so on. Something different is happening after that. The member of the parliament, now we are waiting for some people from high caliber and high profile educational can express a new kind of cases and issues. We can speak about the people who can say something from the economy, something from the political issues. Myself, I have my personal experiment in the parliament. I was covering for 1 year in the Brotherhood Parliament. I think it was a very hot debate and very hot discussions about particular issues in the they were making the society coming in some particular path or so on. So we have to wait some particular differences from the new parliament members. We also hope that we can speak about the new issues. They can express the hopes of the people, and I think there was a very positive step happening yesterday about the laws issued from the President Fattah Sisi and the former President Maadli Mansour. Some are trying to say that all the laws issued at the former years, the previous 2 years, have to be re-examined under the parliament and re-discussed for the new parliament members.
Yes. Speaking
But
about
they
the
have-
upcoming parliament,
the-
Mrs.
they-
Ms.
they-
Anna, if you can tell us.
Maybe Dr. Huda has
I
a
will
comment.
Yeah.
comment on this. All the laws issued by the president should be agreed upon in the parliament. So first, the president he will give the decree and give the law approval, and then the parliament will discuss it and approve it on sessions.
Yes.
And this gonna be like some of these going to the economical side. This will
Yeah.
be signed, and this is in the economic committee.
Yes.
There is a committee for economy,
Yes.
so it should be signed there, and also in the political issue, and also in the social or all the funding for the underprivileged or that kind of laws. So the thing that each committee will take place to approve the issue, and then will go down to the parliament as a whole. All sessions will be all the committees will be in one session agreeing, and then everything will be
Yes.
approved, and then will be no further discussion about it.
Yeah. My question was also related to the economy. Do you think that there will be a positive impact having the parliament in place on the economy? And as a former member of parliament, what do you advise the newly elected candidates to discuss in the first session when the parliament convenes? What would be, in your opinion, the first law that should be as a priority or on top of their agenda?
Well, I think there's a lot of laws here is coming through, and you don't put me on that angle, please, because there is a lot of important laws here issued. But the thing that we are talking about, that we have to draw lights on the international agreements we are dealing with, and because this is the thing that we support our economical status for the time being. So I think they will go straight to the international agreements and discuss all the laws which was issued by our president and Mustashar Council Adli Mansour also. And these should be on the first line. The other issue is that related to the social status, because the people, the underprivileged, need a big attention. And this is the key of moving the society up front. They won't move happily except if they feel satisfied and feel that there is laws which support them in their lives. So I think this is one of the top, it has to be parallel. course.
Yes.
Of course, we have a very important agreement about El Daba, which has to be also approved, and there is a lot of laws related to the status of terrorism.
Yes.
This is the issue which makes our life right now, I mean, we are happily and secured, of course.
So
but
don't
the
you
law,
think that the anti-terrorism law that was ratified by the president, don't you think that it's enough?
I think it's enough. I think it's enough, but it has to be applied
Yes.
and committed. And there is no sort of, you know,
Playing around.
playing around or skipping
Which is
some
the case
areas.
worldwide, Dr. Huda. We are seeing what's going on the ground in other countries around the world. We have seen what happened in Paris. We have seen what's going on now in Belgium. So the law has to be implemented.
And you
The
expect
terrorists has-
something also in the States, don't worry about it. Because he's the one mentioning this. I mean, this is very important corner in our life right now. So it has to be secured. This law should be one of the basics which can be, and the Committee of National Security, of course, there is a committee for
Yes.
that. And will be the number one to be discussed and approved. I think so. So I expect a hot start for this parliament, and I wish the candidates will be up to the level, of course, and share positively at this point a lot of issues to be discussed, and give us a bright side in our parliamentarian candidates.
Yes.
Mr. Amir, can you tell us about your opinion regarding the participation of women, of youth, and of the elderly in that second phase of the parliament election?
I think women were very presenting in the first phase and again in the second phase. I think also the young people from the two genders will be there, from people coming from, I think, students from universities and so on. They are asking about how to cast my ballot and so on. All of this spirit is very good for the youth, and we have to encourage them to participate. Even the ID were not validated or so on. Some of them were asking me personally about that.
Yes.
Now we can speak about what they are expecting from the parliament, because some of the youth are successful from the first phase, and we can see so many new faces coming in this parliament.
Yes.
New faces coming to express the views of the society. So I think many of the members of the parliament, so many members coming with the new laws. I'm commenting actually
Yes.
about what Dr. Huda has just talked about. The new laws from the members of the parliament, all of this, so many new faces coming with new laws in their brains. I think they are thinking about what kind of law I am trying to participate, I'm trying to creating a new law. I think it is very important to make some kind of training courses for the parliament members, to train them about how they can discuss and express and what's happening worldwide in the parliamentarian experiments in Europe and so on, worldwide.
Yes.
So, because some of them are coming from not very high profile education and so on. They can't even speak about what they are coming to participate, what laws, how far they are discussing and studying the laws, and what about their intellectual background and so on, what the culture of them background. So we have to make training courses for the members. We have to tell them they have to be participating calmly and quietly, not with shouting and not with just to speak and just to raise my hand to participate in something I'm not aware about it enough. So they have to make them aware about the priority of our society, the priority of our security and so on. Some of them are coming to repeat the experiment of the National Party and so on, and say I'm okay, and the people are not knowing me enough about he has nothing about what's coming to discuss about and so on. So all of these, so many of them are youth, and coming in the parliament is very strong in their career, strong point in their career, and we have to help them to make this experience successful for the society and for themselves.
Indeed.
Dr. Rizana, I believe that one of the major tasks of the MPs is to be the voice of the voiceless.
Yes.
How do you think they can, the newly elected candidates do so?
Well, each one comes from a certain part in Egypt, so I think they are the first ones that they know what are the problems there. Is it a water problem? Is it electricity? Is it social standard? Is it the buildings? Is it the kind of life? Are the people deprived from a social activity? There is nothing for young generation to have a place to have sports activity or other side. Even the health insurance, this is one of the very, very dramatic areas which you have to be solved.
Yes.
Education also is a big issue, is a master problem, and we have to put in our plan that the Egyptian education should be elevated up to the level which we used to have before, and we won't give the foreign education priority and advance to the Egyptian. Egyptian students should know what Egypt is, what was the history in full study, because they in international schools they give chapters. They don't give all the thing. Also, they have to be watched about bringing the nationality, the belonging and
patriotism.
But yes, it has to be built and the student since the child. So we are raised on that levels. So we have to watch the international schools and all the schools in Cairo, not only even the governmental schools. There are a lot of areas which need to be reformed and readjusted. So education, first priority, health insurance, and this is one of the terms. And the laws, I urge every person in the parliament to work through this and see what are the problems in their provinces, and is there problems of old age. People who are taking, they were resigned and they don't have support, and not financially, not health, nothing. So there is a big humanitarian issues. Each candidate come to the parliament. I think he promised the people who brought him to the parliament that he will do so and so and so. So he should fulfill his commitment. I mean, there is no way to say something and you don't do it. So you are not eligible to be there anymore. And this is the thing we were talking about. About a lot of people we were talking about. Who's these people? I told them, well, let us put a standard, and then we'll talk and discuss. We can give him some time and give him later how to give him a list of requests, which is it fulfilled or not? Are we talking serious, or you were just giving us a big story and by the end of the day you are taking care of your own interests?
Yes, of course.
So this is the thing.
Now we'll go to a short break, and after that we'll be back to resume our interview about the process of the second phase of the parliamentary elections here in Egypt with Dr. Huda Rizana and Mr. Amir.
ان شاء الله هنزل اشارك.
اكيد هشارك طبعا.
اكيد طبعا ان شاء الله هنزل اشارك.
هنشارك في الانتخابات.
انا هشارك في الانتخابات ان شاء الله.
طب حضرتك هتشارك ليه؟
عشان خاطر مصر.
ايوه عشان عايز مصر تبقى احلى من كده.
عشان انا واحد من الناس تعبت.
الشعب مش هيهدى، يعني الشعب عايز تغيير.
كرامة المواطن بره مصر قبل جوه مصر.
اي حاجه يطلبها هقدر اعملها.
اطلب وانا قاعد ما ينفعش. استقرار البلد.
يعني امن الطرق اهم حاجه.
الشعب عايز حاجه تحصل بسرعه.
رب يصلح حال البلد
داخلي وخارجي.
دلوقتي بلدك محتاجالك همتك بدك تغير يلا كمل ثورتك.
Dear viewers, we continue our coverage for the Egyptian parliamentary elections, and now we are joined live from Port Said Governorate by our correspondent there, Linda Abdulatif. Linda?
Good morning, Mahisi. Good morning, Karim.
Good morning, Linda. Can you tell us, please, about the election process and the voting process taking place in Port Said Governorate today in the second day of the parliamentary elections?
Well, as you've mentioned, Mahisi, it's the second day of the 2015 parliamentary elections, and I'm still reporting from Port Said Governorate right here in Ashtoumi Gamil Primary School. Now, let me just give you a reminder that yesterday the overall turnout was average. People came in big numbers in the early morning, starting from 9 a.m. up till 2 p.m., but then the numbers started decreasing as we were approaching the break that started at 2:30 and ended at 3:30. Now, 5 minutes before 3:30, women, or a group of small women, were standing right here in front of Ashtoumi Al Gamil School in order to cast their votes. The number in comparison to the early morning was fair, but the overall voting of the 2015 parliamentary elections right here in front of Ashtoumi Gamil School was average. Now, as for today, Mahisi, let me mention first that the polling station of Ashtoumi Gamil Primary School has opened 23 minutes later, and a group of women were standing before the opening of the gates in order to get in and cast their votes. Now, here's a reminder that Ashtoumi Gamil Primary School has a total number of 7,119 registered voters, and all of them are women.
Linda, do you expect the number of voters to increase throughout the day as we are approaching now it's the early hours of the morning, and maybe it's calm because people did go to work?
Yes, that's true. We're still in the early morning, and people are expected to increase towards the early afternoon as they did today. The numbers have started increasing right after 9 a.m. At 9 a.m. yesterday, the number was good, and they were much better towards the early afternoon up till 2 p.m. So we're expecting that the same thing happens today as well.
Before the start of the opening of the polling station, or where is everything going according to the normal thing, and there were no irregularities or any problems upon the opening of the polling station at your
Could you please repeat the question, Mahisi?
Linda?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Were everything okay today, Linda, at the beginning of the voting process?
Well, the polling station today right here in Ashtumi Gamil School has opened 23 minutes later than it should because one judge just came in time and the other two were a little bit late, and then because they arrived late, they had to prepare their materials and stuff. So the polling stations opened like a few minutes after 9:23, but then people started getting in and they started voting or participating in the 2015 parliamentary elections, and the voting process is actually going smoothly right here, right now at Ashtumi Gamil Primary School in Port Said Governorate.
Linda Abdulatif, our correspondent from Port Said, thank you very much for your input, and we'll be back to you throughout the day for more updates. Thank you very much, Linda.
Mr. Amir, back to you. Unfortunately, or ironically, as Egypt is electing its parliament and having a parliament in place post June 30th, there were some political figures calling, or just one, calling for a snap presidential election. What's your comment on that?
I know that person who has called for that. I think it is something ironic to call for new or early presidential election at this particular time. We have to be unifying, you have to be unified all as a society and as people on the back of our President Fattah Sisi and on the back of our future and roadmap. To discuss that, I think the place of that rightly to be the parliament, to speak about that and under the constitution and under some rules, not to make some kind of just a word here or there.
What do you think is the main aim or the real aim behind such calls?
They are trying to make some kind of an anti-society or anti-social call against the people. They are speaking about something like narrowing them or trying to restricting against some particular brotherhood or Salafi or so on. So the Salafi or brotherhood background persons are, they have to speak something like that. A lot of people in the prisons and so on, they are making some crimes or something like that for the sake of our security and for the interest of our society. They have to be under the judicial system and in the court and in the prisons. We have to accept all of that. All the people who are committing crimes against the society have to be imprisoned. So some of them and a lot of them are figures in the Brotherhood and Salafi, and they were expecting from them to have some rules, to play some rules in these elections and so on. Now they are absent, and they are trying to make this call against the society.
Indeed. And now we are joined by our correspondent from Sayyida Zainab Cairo Governorate, Mona Musilhi, to shed light about the voting process taking place there. Mona, good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, Mahisti, and I'm here in Sayyida Zainab, one of the constituencies or the one of the main constituencies in Great Cairo. If I can say that we are still early in the morning, some people have already came early in the morning. Here the polling stations a little bit was late than the scheduled time by 10 to 15 minutes. But if I may give just a wrap up to the whole day of yesterday and up till this minute, I can say that we've been seeing since yesterday a kind of higher turnout than the first stage. Here, if I may speak about the Sayyida Zainab constituency, because we're speaking about a medium-sized constituency. It's of 196,000 eligible voters. We're speaking about an area, a very historic area, a very popular area that really shows how the popular feeling towards the elections we've been seeing here, because we have here 4 sub-polling stations of around 11,000 people. So it's for men and for elders. We've been seeing a participation of men and elders tremendously, particularly the elders and the middle-aged people. In the around area, if I may speak about youths, then youths was a little bit less than the participation of the middle-aged men and, of course, the people, the elders. Mahesti.
Yes, Mona. What about today's participation? Do you expect the number to increase throughout the day, especially that today would be a half day for the state employees? Do you expect the number and the turnout to increase throughout the day, Mona?
Right. So if I just want to give you a figure, let me say that yesterday by early tomorrow in the morning, I'm speaking about yesterday, 10:30 in the morning, it was one of the constitutions of around 2,777, and up till 10:30 there were around 100 people who came to cast their voices in just one sub-polling station. So this is a figure of how the turnout was yesterday. Of course, today is a working day or a half working day according to this Prime Minister's or the Cabinet's decision to make it a half working day. So I expect turnout to be higher in the afternoon. Let me say or give you just a wrap up. The whole situation went on very smoothly yesterday, except for very few irregularities. The irregularities that we can speak about are banners that are in front of the polling stations. And I guess, of course, the governorates or the governor should be overseeing or observing these irregularities. Other irregularities we're speaking about is the late time or the in the morning, the 15 to 20 minutes late. The polling station always are opening by 15 to 20 minutes late. If we're speaking about the reason, not from the security, but rather some of the judges are a little bit late. But other than that, security is on its highest alert, and we have seen here the police forces along with the army forces, and this time we're speaking about SWAT forces. They're not just here to secure the area, but if you can see yourself, they are here to facilitate the process for the voters, particularly for elders. If you there are 2 polling stations here from the 4 polling stations, and they are particularly for elders. If you can, I may transfer the image later on.
We'll get back to you throughout the day for more updates about the voting process in Sayyidah Zainab. Thank you very much for your input.
Our dear guests, unfortunately we're running out of time, but we really do have to take some final comments. We start off with you, Mrs. Rizan.
Thank you for that, of course, and I need to comment on the last point discussed by Mr. Amir about the person who was suggesting to have a
snap presidential election.
Yes. I tell him that he should sit back and be sincere to his country. And we are not here playing. We are running on a path, and we are catching up with our president to reach to the peak when we can start a new life in Cairo. We are not returning back to number 0, and then we have fights and the streets come again, and this irregularity you are calling for. I think I advise him to be aware that he's not the lovely voice to speak right now. Because a lot of people were annoyed about this statement, and about a lot of people, they were putting this as a new announcement. So I don't know how they digest that, or what they are thinking among these international disturbances we are observing, and we are thanking God that we have a peaceful, and on the contrary, around us we are enjoying quiet, and anti-terrorist measures were taking place. So we want to bring them back.
Yes.
We won't bring them back. So this is a set of, for every Egyptian I'm talking about.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Amir?
I'm just making something like an advice to the parliamentary members, the newly faces coming in under the parliament now. They have to support all the issues for the society, all the segments, the social segments, from the elderly people, the women, even the children, but they have to make some particular focus on the youth, because a lot of people from the youth, a lot of people need to encourage them. They will make the productivity in our society. They will take this society in the coming future and successful, hopefully.
Mr. Amir Nabil, Managing Editor, MENA, Middle East News Agency, and Mrs. Huda Rizana, former Member of Parliament. Thank you so much for your insight, and thank you so much for joining us on The Breakfast Show.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
And dear viewers, by this, we come to the end of this episode of The Breakfast Show, live on Nile TV International. We talked about this very important development and very important event taking place in Egypt, in 13 provinces across Egypt today, the final stage of the political roadmap, the parliamentary elections. And of course, we'll be bringing you more as we go through the day. And dear viewers, you're in the company of Majesty Rabia and Karim Jamaluddin. Until we meet again, this is goodbye.
انزل وشارك في اللي جاي، قول كلمتك، شيل اي فكرة جوه بالك تحبطك. دلوقتي بلدك محتاجالك، همتك بايديك تغير، يلا كمل ثورتك. دي اهم خطوة نبتدي بها الطريق، وبعدها ممكن نغير كل شيء. يعني نكون او لا نكون، همك قصادك، لو يهون خسارة كل اللي اتبنى ده نهد فيه. ما بقتش خايف، هنزل مهما يجرى ايه، هنزل واشارك صوتي هتحاسب عليه. قدام عينيا الاختيار، ما سيبش بلدي للدمار، خسارة كل اللي اتبنى ده نهد فيه. انزل وشارك في
في مصر كل يوم بنشارك بعض في حاجات كتير.